I'm going to go through 10 books that every man should read. Why should you read them? Because they'll make you tougher, more stoic, more able to deal with hard times. They'll help you see truth, reality, how the world and people really are. In short, you must read these books and read them soon because they'll help you win. Let's be honest here and leave feelings and politeness aside. Life is hard.
Kids, life is hard.
Suffering is something in life that every single human shares. Men are expected to lead, to protect, and to provide. And we're not here to merely survive, but to thrive. We're not here to be weak victims, but winners, to shake hands with our potential. As such, you cannot be weak, you cannot be soft. You cannot in any way, shape, or form see yourself as a victim. You cannot see the world with a false veil like a child sees it, as if life is fair and fun, as if it revolves around you, as if people will treat you with kindness and fairness rather than getting what they want from you. There are books that help us deal with reality, to see the world as it is, not as we wish it would be. These are books that help you deal with suffering, see clearly, think and act rationally, and win in life, because that's what we're here for. We all have our own definitions of what victory is, and we have to reach that victory. We can't, however, diminish our idea of what winning is to fit what we think we're capable of achieving. Aim high, audaciously high. Scare yourself with the goals you chase. You're a man, not a kid. Set something you have to rise up to. With that, 10 books every man must read. First is Mastery by Robert Greene. As a man, you have to be good at something. Even better if you're great at something. Mastering any skill takes time, purposeful effort, and desire. You need to want to be great more than you want pleasure in the moment. As Greene writes, the future belongs to those who learn more skills and combine them in creative ways. Not just the future, but your future. Mastering skills takes time, effort, and intensity and focus. And you're alone in this mission. As he writes again, no one is really going to help you or give you direction. In fact, the odds are against you. With that statement alone, many will avoid this book. They'd rather have a handout than have to work their asses off for something greater, and they'll achieve nothing. You, though, should see this both as a challenge and as simple reality. Our success in life solely rests on our own shoulders. No one is here to help or guide. It's up to us to become good enough to deserve whatever it is that we want. Next book is The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli. Whether you want it to happen or not, you're going to have adversaries. You're going to have people who look out for their best interests over yours, and your interests won't always align. I haven't looked into the reasons as to why this book was banned for so long or what the controversy behind it is, but it's a good book. Machiavelli writes, "The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must, therefore, be a fox to recognize the traps and a lion to frighten the wolves." That's just good life advice. So is this when he writes, "The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. You'd better surround yourself with good men if you want to live a good life." The book is a series of letters to a prince that Niccolo Machiavelli is mentoring, helping him navigate the dangers of power. It's a book that deals with human nature in acquiring power and dealing with people on a daily basis. It is, however, about achievement. As he writes, "Never was anything great achieved without danger. If you want to do something great, you have to put your neck on the line."
He put his neck on the line for you.
Some don't have the stomach for it, but when you think about how you want to live, it makes sense to aim for the best rather than settling for the more peaceful mediocre. Next book is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. He writes, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." Choice. We can't always choose the events, and rarely can we choose the sequence of events in our lives, but we can always choose how we see them, our attitude toward them, and how we react to them. This is a very stoic way of looking at the world, but Frankl writes his ideas in a concentration camp in the Second World War. It gives his ideas more weight. If you can find meaning in the hell of a concentration camp, how in the hell are we unable to find it in our climate-controlled homes with our entertainment systems, libraries, and loved ones? Frankl writes, "To be sure, man's search for meaning may arouse inner tension rather than inner equilibrium. However, precisely such tension is an indispensable prerequisite of mental health. There is nothing in this world, I venture to say, that would so effectively help someone to survive even the worst conditions as the knowledge that there is a meaning in one's life. There is much wisdom in the words of Nietzsche. He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how. Our culture isn't concerned with truth. Rather than have difficult discussions to find truth, we allow people to identify as whatever they want to identify as, so long as we don't offend them. We don't call people to lose weight. We tell them they're beautiful the way they are, even if they're killing themselves with every new bite of a Big Mac. If you really want meaning, happiness, to make the best of this life, you need struggle. The avoidance of struggle is the avoidance of life itself." Next book is The Art of Living by Epictetus. Epictetus writes, "There is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about the things which are beyond the power of our will. Control what you can, release what you can't, and decipher the difference between what you can and should control and what you can't." The Art of Living is the most concise adaptation of the big three Stoic authors that I've found, which makes it an easy read, but oddly enough, a slow one. Each chapter is essentially a page, offers a thought or a perspective that should be mulled over for at least a day. You read too many pages at once, and you risk losing some of the lessons without giving them their due time to be absorbed. The wisdom on each page is profound, life-changing, and though I hate the term, empowering. It empowers you to take control over your thoughts, reactions, and your life, and to stop thinking like a victim. The next book is Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. The Stoic theme continues with the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. What makes Aurelius's book special is that it was never intended to be published. In fact, he'd likely be horrified by the notion that it was published. Meditation is a collection of Aurelius's personal journal entries to himself. You can get into the mind of the world's most powerful man.
It was so you could control powerful men.
A man who has access to everything yet chooses stoicism as a philosophy to live a better life, but also be a better leader. There's got to be something to that. When you focus on what you can control rather than what you can't, you become powerful. If you do it for a long enough time, there's no telling what you can achieve, and even better, who you can become. I quote, "You have the power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." The next book is On the Shortness of Life by Seneca, but I'm adding in his epistles. So here's the second. There's 3, I think. One story from his epistles highlights Seneca's philosophy as good as anything. It's a philosophy that essentially makes you indestructible. If nothing can be taken from you, who can defeat you? The story. Stilbo has been traveling away from home. When he returned, he found that barbarians had sacked his city, his wife and his entire family had been killed. In assessing the damaged city, Stilbo was asked, "What have you lost?" Stilbo answered, "Nihil perditi, omnia mea mecum sunt," or in English, "I have lost nothing. My goods are all with me." That seems like an unfathomable response. He must have been heartless or ruthless. He must not have loved his belongings nor his wife and family. But that's not what the story is getting at. He did love everything, but he was attached to nothing. To apply that to family is truly unfathomable. But that's the extreme power of Stoicism. Love what you have while you have it, but when it's taken from you, know that you need nothing to be happy. No matter where you are in life, if you want to be indestructible, understand that you have everything you need. Next is The Black Swan by Nassim Taleb. There's a lot in this book, from statistics to how you see risk and perceive certainty, to Stoic philosophy and how to live as best you can. And somehow, it's a page turner. I couldn't put it down. There are little gems like always go to dinner parties as a way to use luck, or as Taleb puts it, serendipitous encounters. You need to meet new people to be exposed to new ideas or even relationships. It's best to go to dinner parties where the music is low enough that you can actually have a conversation, or the idea that a man who knows his final resting place is indestructible, or the Stoic principle of amor fati, love fate. If you do your best in the moment, do the work, take the risks, and somehow love however it all turns out, Who can defeat you? In all, it's a book about how to see the world, even systems like governments, how they ought to best be structured, what creates more volatility, in quotes. Increased regulation creates more complexity, which creates more loopholes, which allows the bigger corporations who can afford former politicians and lawyers on their payroll to skirt the system. So less regulation is actually a simpler way to allow people to thrive and to keep people within the rules. It's a must read for any man wanting to think more clearly, to see things more rationally. Next, I have a few books. They're all by Robert Greene. The 48 Laws of Power, The 33 Strategies of War, The Laws of Human Nature. Yes, and they're all by Robert Greene. Each of these 3 books by Robert Greene will help you understand human nature better, and the reality is, in life, you're competing against or with other humans. Knowing what they really want or actually are trying to do is vital. Some of the stuff seems brutal, even dark, like you don't want to read it because it's so far out of the scope of who you are. It's not so much that you're trying to become the guy who has the attributes that are talked about in the books, but others have them. That's the point. Reading about power and war and human nature will open your eyes to how others think. You may be a go-giver, but there are go-getters and takers and devious humans who want it all and everyone else to have nothing. You are able to give more if you win. And a part of winning is to understand how humans act and think. Thus, these 3 books should make their way into your library. Next is another one by Nassim Taleb called Skin in the Game. The idea of skin in the game is that people have to be responsible for what they build or even the policies they enact. During ancient times in places like Babylon, for example, a bridge builder or a home builder would be responsible if what they built didn't last. After a bridge was built, for example, the builder would have to be under the bridge as elephants would be trotted over its head along the bridge. If his work was bad, the bridge would crumble and he'd die underneath it. Today, with our political systems and large corporations who transfer responsibility and risk, few in power actually have skin in the game. A regulator who places regulations on businesses doesn't lose a penny if the businesses go under because of the sheer expenses added trying to go through and appease each regulation. A politician isn't thrown in prison, doesn't have his life savings taken from him if his policies hurt the economy. We need decision makers to have skin in the game if we're to thrive as a society. Like all Taleb books, there's a lot more than just this single topic, but understanding this topic will help you become a better investor. It'll help you vote for the better candidate or policy. It'll help you hedge risk and understand why people do what they do. In short, it'll make you smarter and help you see reality in a micro and macro scale. Next is Deep Work by Cal Newport. It's not what we intend to do that matters, but what we do and accomplish. This is no more important than with our work. We never had so many options and distractions that take us away from the work we must get done, namely the apps and gadgets on these little computers we carry in our pockets. There are other books that cover the struggles of creating great work that I could have used here, like Turning Pro or anything by Stephen Pressfield, The One Thing or Essentialism, but Deep Work does a wonderful job showing the reader how to get into that deep work or flow state where both great work is created but also a great life is lived. It'll help you get more done in less time, achieving more while allowing you to enjoy life more as well. The next book is The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt. Theodore Roosevelt is the ultimate man in the arena, a term he coined in his speech that often goes by the same name. He wasn't just a great writer or inspiring speaker. He was president of the United States, hunter, explorer, boxer, father, and cowboy. He lived, daringly so. Read about the obstacles he overcame as a child and how he eventually overcame them through perspiration, not the rest that was prescribed to him. It's inspiring to go out and live in the same manner. It's a must-read book. Next is The Fish Who Ate the Whale. I like books that shape my view of the world and what's possible in a positive way. You can read statistical analyses about how difficult it is to achieve wealth or power, or you can study a specific individual's story who achieved far more than you think is possible from a much more unlikely starting point, even a more unlikely time period. I prefer the latter. Give me an example of someone who overcame insurmountable odds to achieve unfathomable wealth, and I'll use it as proof that I too can do the same. Without going into too much detail about the story, because it's a gripping tale from start to finish, it's a book about a Russian Jewish immigrant to America who conquered what was at the time one of the biggest, most controlled, and profitable industries on the planet, the banana industry. The corporations who owned the influx of bananas into America essentially owned the nations where the product was grown. It's similar to someone starting an oil company from scratch and growing it into the biggest company in that industry today. The more books you read like this, the more you see the proof that it doesn't matter where you are, where you come from, or what your beginnings are. They don't set in stone how you'll end up. If you live long enough, you end up where you deserve to end up. And that end is decided largely by you, your habits, and what you think is possible. Another book that helped me form this mindset is called The Gambler. It's the story of Kurt Kerkorian. Now, finally, I love to read, but reading is useless without application. Read to actually be smarter and tougher, more stoic, and so forth, and to take what you learn from a book and apply it to your life. We've all met absolute idiots who have read hundreds of books. They're usually intellectuals. The books they read reaffirm their beliefs rather than exposing them to the truths and realities of life. They usually teach things that they don't actually practice, especially economists. Then there are those who live wisely. They clearly have their shit together. They live in a way that helps them win, but also that we admire. Be that guy. That comes from reading good books and applying what's in those pages. If you're a man who wants to win and understand how the world really works, read the books above and read them more than once.